Hi, I'm Jamie, and in this show, we talk about everything outdoors in the Pacific Northwest. Life and fishing, health and hiking, relationships with others, the outdoors, and with ourselves. Join us for epic catches, new fishing techniques, and insights on ways to create your next wild adventure. For us, fishing is more than just a hobby. It's a way of life. Welcome to the Fishing for a Reason podcast. So this week we are going to be talking about gearing up for salmon season, which is my favorite fishery. It's your favorite fishery.
It's mine too. This is the best time of the year right now.
It's here.
Actually, 1 month from now.
But even the lead up is so much fun.
The lead up is fun.
Yeah. But we want to kick today's call off. We have a few different things to cover. So first of all, we're going to go over some housekeeping. We're going to talk about what you need to do to prepare your gear like a pro, and then some strategies that you can use to plan your trip. And then let's see, the other thing I wanted to touch on is we do have Salmon School coming. So for those of you that have attended a salmon school with us in the past or a halibut school, we do these in-person classes where we meet as a group and we do essentially a extended seminar. They're usually 4 to 5 hours long. And we go through all the things that you need to know to get set up and go target whatever species we're covering. So we're going to do a salmon school one here on July 11th. It's a Friday in Anacortes. It's a super fun time where we do a lot of hands-on things. We have speakers and we dial in your salmon strategy before the opener. So it's a really fun time. We also get to hang out with everybody, which makes it great. So highly recommend you come to that. Email us at support@anglersunlimited.co and say Salmon School, and that'll let us know that you want to attend. So that's going to be a great time. We all typically how we've run these classes is we do in class, learn all the things, touch all the gear, mess with stuff, tie stuff, rig up a bait, those kinds of things, hands on. And then we go out on the boat and you do it with Scott. And with salmon, we don't have clear enough dates other than in August. So we're going to handle those in the classroom. So if you want to get on a charter for a smoking deal and get some training on salmon fishing, you'll have an opportunity to do that in the classroom there. We'll book dates out. It won't be like directly after class like we did last year, just because there's nothing open, but we will do it at a couple weeks later. Anything you want to add on that?
No, it's going to be a fun time. We'll probably have some stuff to give away.
Yep. So we're really looking forward to having all of you guys there. It'll be great to mingle and connect and actually put some faces to the online bubble.
And we'll be the week before our King opener.
Yes.
So let's talk about salmon.
Not quite yet.
Oh, no.
I know. Well, we can almost. One other announcement is Resurrection Derby. If you've never fished a salmon derby, there is a salmon derby up in Anacortes. We'll be fishing Bellingham Bay because that's what's open for Kings, August 16 and 17. We also have a training inside of the Gold community of how to fish that area if you've never fished it before. Really good time. Winner last year was a 31.23 pound fish. So get your salmon derby tickets. They'll be $100 a person. Everybody on the boat needs a ticket, but it's a great time. We do a no host captains meeting on Friday. You don't have to be there, but it's a great time to just mingle, hang out, drink some beer, eat some food locally at one of the establishments in Anacortes. And then we will also have an awards ceremony on Sunday, the 17th, right after weigh-in closes. So at 6 p.m. And that'll be like just food. We comp dinner that night. So you'll get, I think it's going to be taco bar.
So
Probably do a taco bar. And there's drinks and a ton of prizes. So even if you don't catch a fish, you're probably going to go home with something.
And I don't know if we've talked about this since the last halibut derby, but Nate was the recipient of a John Beath rod.
Oh, yeah.
Because he caught the biggest halibut out of Anglers Unlimited.
Good point.
We will probably have we'll have a prize for biggest salmon by an Anglers Unlimited member in the Resurrection Derby.
So if you enter that, there's a whole nother little potential to win through us. So that'll be a lot of fun.
It'll be a good prize. We have some good prizes.
Perfect. Okay, great. And now we can talk about salmon.
We can talk about salmon. Hey, 17 to 19 is our King opener. And then the rest of July, August, and September, we'll have coho, pinks. They're saying, 8 million roughly pinks coming back. So It should be a good year for fishing. And we've seen, I believe I saw a school pinks in here 2 days ago. They're coming. We've seen fish jumping. It's going to be a good time. So we're going to talk about what do you need to do to get ready for your King opener. I mean, we know the seasons now, 17 through 19. We may have days after that. Our encounter limit is 2,100-ish. So depending on how the fishing goes and how they assess that, smoke and mirrors, we may get days after that, which would be the 24th, 5th, and 6th, some of those days. So it should be a good time. So what do you need to do to get ready? You got your gear, you got your downriggers, you got your boat, you got everything ready to go. You got all your lures tied and ready to go. If you're using stuff from last year, you know, you're going to want to look at all that. So the first thing we're going to talk about is rods and reels. You know, I kind of take them off the boat and they're sitting in the garage. They're up for the winter. Haven't used them in a while. So I'll take them out and typically I'll kind of lube them up. I have a few that, you know, you can kind of feel they should not get salt water in them. So if the gears are getting hard to turn, crunchy, you may want to look at your screws, because we had a brand new reel and Jamie was reeling it up a couple of weeks ago and she looks down, she's like, oh, that's weird. It's coming apart at the seam. There's brand new reel, a screw missing out of the side of it. So you want to take a look at all that and check your drags. If you haven't, you know, released the drags on all of your reels over the winter, you definitely want to maybe look at lubing them up good and maybe taking them apart and clean them, lube them, put them back together. The line, you know, some people replace their line every year. I don't replace the line every year, but I'll look at it. And I'll typically take about 20 feet off the top. And if I'm getting low, I've heard guys do this, they'll run this line off of that reel onto another one. And then you have the part that's been out for a year or two. Now it's the bottom, and the part that's been in the bottom is now the top. So you have, essentially you're using the other half of the line. And I thought that was kind of a cool way to do it. If you just don't want to drop the money for $30 for a couple of 300 yards of mono. And, you know, we're using, like we always talk about, I use 30-pound mono. I'm a Maxima Chameleon, that kind of purplish colored line. For whatever reason, I just like it. So I have that on most of my reels. And then retying all your swivels. I just retie them, put new swivels on. Most of the swivels, even though they're stainless, if they get a little bit of rust on them, they could be a weak spot and potentially a place that it's going to break. If you get a big fish, and, you know, friends of ours, I think Chris Long always says, be ready to catch that 30-pounder, because they're out there and they have been out there. So taking care of your line, either replacing, patching on, or whatever you think is appropriate for your situation. And then just checking the rods, make sure it didn't get bumped in the garage. If you don't have it in a rod holder, check your eyelets, make sure all the ceramic and all of those are good and not chafing your line. And then either fixing them or just replace them if you have to. All of your lures, you know, I'll use lures that I've had tied up. If I look at them and they're rusty, though, I'll change the hooks out. I'll put new leader on. And most of the leader I'm using is probably 40-pound fluorocarbon. One thing that does, especially if you're fishing hoochies, I'll tie double red hook rigs with that. And it just gives the hoochie or the squid a little more action back there behind the flasher. The stiffness of it, I like that. And then checking the flashers. You know, I've had flashers that have cracked and you don't even realize it. The next thing you know, the eyelet where the swivel and the snap swivel was attached will break right out of the flasher. So checking all your flashers and making sure they're good to go, and then getting your arsenal tied up and ready to go. That's
one tip on flashers. So sometimes you'll notice like a flasher will, I guess, dull, and it's always like your favorite one that you use all the time. So if you want to just put some sort of flash back on it that's UV, and still use your good and trusty flasher, Hypervis makes a product. It's really inexpensive, and it's just different colored tape that you can just put right on there, and it's super shiny and awesome. So that's another thing you can do. You can add it to your lures as well. It's just another easy thing to adhere to things to create that vibrancy, so it attracts that fish's attention.
Yep. And then once you've got all your gear and everything prepped, your downriggers, have you used them in a year? I've used one for halibut fishing, or maybe two. But you want to make sure you go through those things. You can take them to John Martinez down in Everett, and they will go through them, and they do a great job, and really popular place to take them. But they're pretty easy to work on as well. Mm-hmm. If you do it yourself, you can do the brakes, and they're not really hard to take those things apart and adjust the brakes.
Even I can do it.
Jamie can do it.
If I can do it, you can do it.
Same thing with the reels, though.
Yep.
You know, you check the line on your reels, check your line on your downrigger, and check the swivels, and check. I'm trying to move everything to tune accord on all 4 of my downriggers. So if you have
Can you explain what that means for people?
So tune accord, it's a six-ish foot piece of thicker, like Dyneema. It's not Dyneema, but it's nylon cord. And what that does for you, basically eliminates the need for the auto stops, because it's got a big swivel on it. And when that goes through the automatic shut off on your downrigger, if you're using Scotties, it will automatically shut your downrigger off. So you don't have to worry about the stops.
And the benefit of that is you get grass or something happens and
the beads,
they will move sometimes or get
crack,
chewed up. And you don't notice it. And then it's like, oh crap, the downrigger's sucking everything up and you just didn't catch it because you thought the bead was on there. So that's one thing. That's just one less thing to think about.
And if you're using stainless steel will rust. So if it's been sitting for a year, check your stainless steel before you put 15 pounds of lead on there, whatever you're using, and make sure it doesn't have any rust spots, because it will snap right there, guaranteed. Yep. And then if you got line, you can I kind of do the same thing. If the line looks like it's good, but the knot where the snap is tied or where the tuna cord is tied, I'll just cut it and retie it. And it takes care of that little worn out spot. And check your outlets. I've got one outlet that I need to change. I get corrosion in them. There's some that, the Marincolins, I'm talking Scotty here. I try to keep dielectric grease in them so they don't rust, but they still sometimes go bad. So I've got one that, for whatever reason, it's really hard to get the plug in. So I need to replace that. But I would just check them all, make sure they're all working before you go out and hit the green button. Rod holders. This year, I always try to do some bit of improvement. And I think rod holders for me has been pretty much the most painful thing on my boat. I went out a couple months ago and bought Burnewiin, 6 Burnewiin rod holder mounts, and associated rod holders go with them. And, people always talk about how expensive it is and how bad it is to do that stuff. But really, depending on how many you put on, I had rails. So I got rid of the rails, did some streamlining of the boat in the cockpit, put 6 Burnewiin mounts in, and then have 6 rod holders now to do it.
It's a massive upgrade.
It's a crazy.
Even halibut fishing, it was like, wow, the boat feels like a Cadillac now. And there's just so much versatility in where we can position everything. So it was a really cool, fun upgrade.
Cleans it up, gets things out of the way. It's easier to net a fish. And just, that was one thing that,
I was surprised it didn't take you guys much time to do it.
Yeah, it's fairly easy. I mean, I took the old rails off in about 10 minutes, literally. It had, I think when they put them on, they only had one of the posts bolted on. Everything else was the screws. So once I got the bolts off the first one, everything else just screwed out, and it was really quick. And then drilling the holes wasn't bad either.
Any tips that you would give for somebody, because it's scary?
always interesting drilling holes in your boat.
Yeah.
But I think once you put the bolts in, I think it's as strong or stronger than what the fiberglass was, because it kind of adds support there. So I think if you're going to do it, just think about your layout and make sure you don't have anything underneath that you're going to drill into, and make sure you have room for your fishing rod handles once you have a fishing rod in there, because you can kind of place them, different places. And I'm kind of limited in the back, how far I can turn them, but it's not a big deal because I want to fish off the back. So, but yeah, really think about your layout before you start drilling holes. That would be my word of advice. And it's a fun upgrade. And then, net, obviously you want to have a good net ready to go. Make sure it didn't rot during the off season.
Or there's holes in it. That happens sometimes.
You get holes, yeah.
And you didn't catch them till there's a fish in the net and it kind of is going out a little bit.
But yeah, we're getting ready to go. We're going to look at the chart for July 17 and see what the tides look like. I will be trolling a white hoochie behind a white flasher on one of my opening day rigs, I assure you.
Yep. I'm going to do a little gear prep as well. So one thing that Scott and I are working on right now is a full course library of Salmon School, which will be, I mean, it's in process right now. She's currently adding it to the library, but I want to at least show you what we do for bait. There's two different things that's worth getting on now, getting prepped now. And one of them is if you do like to make your own releases, do that now. We're going to put a video of how to do it inside of the course library, but you just buy 200-pound big game mono. You can buy the individual Scotty clips. I think you can buy other brands too. You can order them on Amazon, or a lot of tackle stores will just like have a bucket and you can grab a few. Then you get those double connector sleeves and duo lock snaps. And then the Harbor Freight will have, you guys probably have crimping tools, but it's a really easy thing to do to rig up your own releases. And that way you can customize the length so that you know your bait presentation or your flasher presentation is where you want it to be. Or if you have your booms out really far, it just makes it easier to grab the release. So the only thing to note, and a very common mistake when you do it for the first time, is to make the loop too small. So you can see my cursor here over the Scotty individual clips. If you make the loop too tight, it won't let you manipulate this thing. So you want to give yourself enough space that there's a little bit of give, if that makes sense, in the loop.
Yeah. And that thing is the pressure that the yellow tips have on your fishing line. So there's a stiff setting and an easier setting. If it's the easy setting, you will know because your line will keep popping out. And then you'll have to bring the downrigger up 12 times before you realize that, oh, the clip is not in the stiffest setting. Mm-hmm. So you want that thing to be able to slide back and grip your fishing line appropriately.
And then the only other thing for prepping bait. So when I rig bait, I have a short bus flasher that goes on the end of the ball. And you can see right here, it's just another opportunity to attract the fish, but there's no flasher on my line. So the fun thing about bait is when that fish hits, it's you and the fish. And it's really fun to play a fish on bait, not only because it's a little bit more technical to get the exact spin that you want, and to get the presentation exactly how you want takes some finesse, which is fun. So when you have that success, it's an absolute blast. So I highly recommend, if you've never done any fishing with bait, give it a try. Even we will always set up our two sides. Like I'll run bait on one side, he'll run hardware on the other side, and just see what is hitting more. So you can both fish. You don't have to fish bait exclusively. You don't have to fish hardware exclusively, especially if you're using cut plug, that's a little different. Those things will blow out and you do have to watch your trolling speed. But if you run hoods, which is what we teach, and there's a video tutorial to show you how to make your own hoods, those things will hold your bait up really nice for a very long time, especially if you have a good brine. So you don't need to worry about trolling speed blowing out your bait. So that's just one thing to add. And then the other thing is go through all of your gear. A lot of times we all have the curse of the season starting. We went to the tackle store and we saw 10 of this color that we love, no banana skinny G. And so we bought them and they're in a bag and they're even in the package still, and you still have them. And then you went to the tackle store again and you bought 4 more. Like, I know we're all guilty of this. So take some inventory of what you already have before you go to the tackle shop and pre-rig everything. Get your stuff rigged up a month early, because it always happens. It'll get here faster than you think. You'll realize you have 1,800 things to do on the boat. You don't want to be messing with your gear. You just know your gear's ready to go. So you just put it on the boat in your tackle bag and you're golden. You've swapped all your salmon stuff. So I would recommend, even though it seems early, get your stuff rigged now.
It's not too early.
It's never too early.
Before you know it.
Yeah. I don't have. One more thing to note on bait. Again, all of this is going to be detailed inside of the course. So red label herring is what I use, a lot smaller. We have smaller bait out here, so I match the hatch. And then to brine, just rock salt. Just rock salt right on top of it, and it brines up real nice. Sometimes I'll throw a splash of seawater, not fresh water, inside with it, and that is it. Anyway, you guys have a great time, and we will be in touch. We'll see you on July 11th at our in-person event, where we'll dive into a whole bunch more in detail, and you'll see some emails coming out when the salmon course is uploaded into the community, which is happening now. So we will be in your inbox. Hope you guys have a wonderful July 4th, and we'll catch you a week later. Bye, everybody.
Peace. Tight lines.
Tight lines.